people use different ideas in the world all the time. I'm always looking at this, the different ideas, and then I hear also from, when we have these groups, I also hear these ideas that people have that try to use and that they decide upon because they've been taught to use these ideas, thinking that these ideas equal something. They do to a certain point, like anything we do in the world. As we think, as we create, as we do things, yes, it works to a certain point, but beyond that, it doesn't work anymore. And many times, for the most part, it actually works against us. I was talking as an example to a person the other day about what's going on in Africa and different parts of the world with the Ebola thing. And we were talking about colloidal silver, and I mentioned oxygen therapy, and this is fine. But if we just have our focus only on the Band-Aids of the world, those are Band-Aids, okay, instead of becoming more aware, then we're limiting ourselves to the Band-Aids. And this is very, very real. I just put out another book. It's called Survival or Love. And so I'm going to give some examples here. And, all I can do is present something, and each person, you decide what your life is going to be. This is very real. So all we can do is share and present. An example I like to use, as always, is the sun. But there's many ways to see this. And as we look at the sun and what the sun demonstrates to us, that is real. It just simply shines, okay? That is a real position, a real demonstration. This is what we're getting many times for the most part in our dream visions. We're getting a demonstration, okay? Now, when we take the idea of love, let's take the idea of love and compare it to that. You see, love is a decision. It's not a reality. Is the sun, when it's shining, is the sun loving us with the same idea that we have as love here as humans? No. But the sun is real. So I would say that what the sun is demonstrating is the real love that life is, because it's always shining. And because it's always shining, to the human part of us that's rather inadequate, it's a little bit scary when we really consider it. When you really focus on the sun like all the time, it's a little bit scary because it's always on, and there's this part of us that we're having to utilize here, which is our human part, that, cannot possibly do that all the time, cannot always be happy, cannot always love, cannot always do these things, so it's rather inadequate. So this part of ourselves, it's even a little bit scary at times how real the sun is and how real life is. And so, but we can decide to love the sun, can't we? And that's a decision. That's not a reality. That's something we decide. If we want to love, which is basically emotion from this part of ourselves here, this is the personal love. But we have been taught that this love that we express here is like everything, the whole of life, when it's not. It's the love that we are experiencing in creation. There is a difference. And this is where it's best to sort these things out and to understand this. Yet even when people understand this, they keep doing the same things. They keep limiting themselves to this same idea. It's not that you don't love, of course. It's not that you don't be happy, of course not. But I was watching a film last night as an example on the indigenous people in the Amazon. And it's very interesting to watch these people, how they go through their daily lives. And, they don't do things the same way that social people do in societies, because their whole position is focused on survival. Where in society, our position is basically focused on struggle, not on survival. Now, the whole of life is about becoming more aware. So let's look at that. Let's look at the sun, the reality of the sun, and how real it is, and how it demonstrates itself to us. let's look at the reality of becoming more aware with our real awareness. And let's look at the idea of love that we have. So again, it's like in the forest. Well, what does a mother deer teach her baby deer or her fawn? The doe, what does the doe teach the fawn? Does she teach the fawn love, or does she teach the fawn survival? And so again, you look at those aspects, and yes, we have this love idea, but today, for the most part, it's a marketing ploy. And this is where the One World Order, will use them as an example, wants people to focus on love. You should just love everything. Well, that's the personal love in creation, because they're dealing with creation. The whole of life is about becoming more aware. So again, we have the sun, the reality the sun is, and we have the reality life is, and that is becoming more aware. So when we compare that with the love idea, what makes more sense? So we have all these things going on in the world, the good, bad, the indifferent, all these things, and always chasing to try and cure them, always chasing, going from here to there, trying to stomp out the fires. Yes, we do that, of course. That's part of it. But what is the real focus? I look at the real guides and what they're demonstrating. That's why I do what I do, because they are demonstrating to me how life is, not what it is thought to be on the planet Earth. Yes, we do these things here. We love, we have happiness, we eat, we play. But if that becomes our focus, then what we've basically done is thrown out survival and becoming more aware out the window. This is real. And as you look at the world and how it is today, all these cute little ideas have not worked, have they? But yet people keep doing them. They keep chasing happiness. They keep thinking love will cure it. They think God will save the world. They have all these ideas. They still worship, pray. They do all the things they've always done, and it's not working. It only gets worse. So, what is the one reality there is with each of us? Becoming more aware. And as we learn how to become more aware for ourselves, and we share this is what I call the real cure for all, which makes sense. And yes, of course, the world is going to resist it. The world is not going to want it, because the world wants its way. In other words, most people are grabbing things for themselves. It's like, oh, I want this house for me, I want my car, etc. I want this or that. Oh, and I want that over there too. Oh, I even want, my neighbor's house and my neighbor's wife and whatever it is. Okay, fine. Again, the personal self is always in action. So it is taking the time to recognize our real awareness, more so than just being soul, more so than just words of wisdom, pretty words of wisdom, pretty speeches that sound good, that lead us to an emotional reaction that we think is love, and it's like, oh, let's just love everybody. And guess what? We're back in the same boat that's going nowhere. It's already been demonstrated to us many times. Yes, again, love, happiness, all these things, just like what you're going to have for dinner tonight, is a choice. It's not a reality unless we create it. When we stand in the real universes, we do not have to create anything, because we are it. We are the inspiration. We are the reality. We are the sun shining. What is it that we have to create when we're already perfect? When you're already perfect, what is it that you have to create? So it would make more sense to focus on becoming aware until you totally recognize the is and yourself. That would make more sense, wouldn't it? Than to struggle with these cute little pretty ideas down here that only go so far in creation, because it's all cause and effect. So it's really learning the difference between real love and personal love. So which one works? And you see what's out there in the world, the LOVE, that's the personal love, that's always promoted by mainly who? The religious orders that are controlled by the dark forces and the Kalam God. So does it make sense to keep promoting that same idea? Or does it make sense to promote how to become more aware and real and wonderful? This becomes your life, your choice. And the reality of life, just like the sun shining, the sun is demonstrating real survival. Where on Earth, you look at the sun, it's seen everything that, anything that's taken place on the Earth since the beginning, and it's been nothing but struggle. And people are looking for this. But they keep thinking, they keep being marketed into the ideas that, oh, we have this over here, or we invented this here, or we made this law and things will get better. It never does. It gets worse. Everything that's created that does not align itself and demonstrate what the natural environment is becomes an effect to where it gets worse. And this is where we are. Because people have agreed to the control of others that have distorted ideas. But they've been promoted as something beneficial when actually they're a distortion. So it's learning to recognize this, becoming more aware, and seeing what's really taking place. And yes, many times, for the most part, this scares people because they've been taught fear. They've been taught distortion, and they've accepted it. They've agreed to it. And then they go, well, why can't I figure this out? It's because you keep thinking and considering things instead of paying attention to what is real right in front of you all the time. And then that becomes the real journey. But to the human mind, when you look at the sun as an example, it's just like, okay, the sun's shining, so what? You see, that's how the mind is. It just blanks it out. And that's where you have to learn to recognize what is taking place with the natural environment, with your real awareness, and sidestep your mind. And this, too, is why people have certain experiences, or they don't have certain experiences, or they can't figure them out, because they're always using their educated mind to try and do this. It doesn't work. Can you figure out the sun with your mind? You can create all kinds of ideas. You know, you can say whatever you want. You can decide whatever you want. Does it change the sun? No. It doesn't affect it at all. But yet humans think that it does in their mind. It doesn't. Thinking is a particular. Yes, it has a place in this one-dimensional world. And we do it. We do everything that we can. But at the same time, we learn to see the difference. Now you've become more aware, you learn to see the difference. And so as we look, as I look at what I have come through, all I can do is refer to what I've come through, since Paul's time, I'll just use this life as an example. When I was little and came through Paul's and then went through, what has taken place basically with the Eckankar movement, etc., and, applying to this world, etc., I see that what I'm presenting now is so authentic and real and wonderful compared to what I've been through. And I don't drag any of that with me. None of it. I constantly sort it out because it has no use anymore. I used to study Paul's books all the time. They were wonderful, but not anymore. Because again, they're just words on paper. There's always better choices we make, and this is how the boys are. Again, people in their minds will think, well, maybe, Buddha or Zoroaster or Paul or Pythagoras, they still love what they wrote or what have you. No, they don't care. That was just something they did on the earth. It's like the house they lived in. So, again, these things are all gone, but they are good references, but that's as far as they go, nothing to drag along. And so, as we go, as an example, I look on Facebook, and you have many of these so-called spiritual sites and all these things, and the basic idea is, awakening and love and all these things, and all let's love each other, what have you. But really, people are promoting a self-limiting position that they do not see. It sounds good. It always sounds good. And you look at anything that started here, it always starts off very well, but where does it end up? You see, that's where, again, because people don't have the awareness to recognize who they really are. And they're always referring to something like God, consciousness, spiritual, soul, love, all these things that are in creation. So each one of us has a choice. You can choose whatever you want. All I can do is present what I recognize to be a better choice than the choices that have been made, which makes sense. And it's really hard to implement this into the world in a particular way because, especially today, we have this great officialness of everything. We have kings, queens, emperors, diplomats, presidents, etc., CEOs, corporations. Basically, everything's almost a corporation, which is fine. This is the business world of today. And along with it, we have this great aura, this great created consciousness aura of officialness. It's like, well, Dwayne, what you're saying and presenting sounds good, but where's your education? Where's your degree? We need to go through a process here to officiate this. It's like your idea has to be approved by the FDA to see if it's, healthy and people can accept it, et cetera. All this nonsense. And by who? The dark forces? Basically, the dark forces rule all this stuff. These are people that purposely create distortion. That's who I call the dark forces. They don't unawarely do it. Like a little child goes out there and pees in his pants on the sidewalk. It's like, oh, that's a no-no. But these agencies that have been created, they go out on the sidewalk and they poison everything purposely. It's a purposely planned distortion. There becomes a difference. And so life recognizes this. So this, just like in the radio shows in the beginning, like when Chris announces the radio shows, we are the new option. It's simply an option. So it's just like when you go to the Coke machine, you can have Diet Coke, you can have Dr. Pepper, you can have whatever you want. You push the button, you make the choice. All I can do is provide this option in creation, and each person decides to do that. So the journey becomes a particular, but it becomes so wonderful once you recognize the real position of this. And so it supersedes the old idea of soul travel and all that, because again, soul travel is chasing something. It's like, oh, I want to get from here to there. Okay, so once you get from here to there, where are you? Okay, you're still here, and the idea is you're looking for something. What is it you're looking for? In creation, you will always be searching. That's real. Until you recognize who you are and are able to stand here and now in reality, in the real universes where you don't need creation. So this becomes the option. But then again, many people want to play in creation. That's fine. See, this is where there is no good or bad in life. These are the definitions that have been created to control you. Right and wrong, good and bad, this and that, whatever. Those are control devices. At first, they started off, just like anything. At first, they started off, just like Harold and Darwin. At first, they started off, and it was, it was a genuine intent to do something, beneficial. But at some point, it should be watched, like anything, like the invention of the piston engine. Okay, we invented this thing, and after a while we realized, hey, this is a piece of junk. But no, they just kept going with it. They just kept going with it, kept going with a bad idea. So, and here we are 100 years later still on fossil fuels, which is ridiculous. And when we got flying saucers all around us and they're using, their electromagnetic energy out of the air, we'll use that as a reference. And we're sitting here on the ground, puttering along and asphyxiating ourselves. To humans, though, this makes sense. It's an agreement. So with all this taking place, with all these things decided that I've just mentioned, these are decisions we make, okay? To worship God, to love anything, to be spiritual, to this or that, or we decide to become more aware and recognize what is real and take on that position and present that position, from ourselves, from our very being, more so than just spreading this emotional idea of love, thinking that this is going to fix everything in the world. So again, a mother can love her child, this is fine. But I would say just to teach the child so that the child teaches the world love is not going to create a position of survival for the child. In no way. Again, love is a decision. It's not survival, and it's not real survival. Survival here is a particular. Again, the indigenous people teach themselves how to survive. But we want real survival. Those who want to become aware, those who want real freedom, you want real survival, and real survival is the focus of your and the recognition of your real awareness into what is real, which is the all is, which is the endless universes. So life is always bigger than the love that we can generate. So it doesn't make sense that we sit here and think in our minds, oh, I love the sun and I want to give to the sun, or I love God and I want to give to God, when these realities are already what they are. So it's not a matter of anything. That is just simply something we decide for ourselves, like happiness. But it doesn't mean we stop doing it. It just means that where is our intent? Is our intent on simply loving emotionally to the world? And that becomes our journey, you see? When you put your intent just in that alone. There's a difference between that being your intent and a lifestyle and something you simply decide. There is a difference. So that would be like the idea of eating, because eating is wonderful and it's a survival factor here. So it would almost be like if we stand in this emotional love all the time, that would be like standing in a big bucket of food all the time because we have to eat. Does that make sense? But yet people stand in their emotional love thinking that this is going to fix everything in their lives and other things. Yes, it will work for a while, but overall it won't, because the body still gets old. And how can a person just love every day truly, simply because you have cause and effect going through you? Again, it's the emotional love, it's not real love. So life is based upon what is real, and that is survival here, but this is secondary survival we have. So we want to recognize what real survival is, and that is with our real awareness, so that we're okay overall, not just for a little short time, and then when that passes, it's like, oh my gosh, what do we do now? What have I done? Where do I go from here? So instead of always searching, it's better to recognize who you really are and take the journey to recognize the all is, as opposed to searching and constantly seeking and hoping that things will be okay in creation. Thank you for listening. I just wanted to get that recorded.